Ever notice the way silence feels heavier than noise? A calm face unsettles more than an angry one. People don't fear explosions. They fear the moment right before, when the air thickens, when the ground whispers of something waiting to break. That moment belongs to you. That calm belongs to you. Calm isn't comfort. Calm is pressure disguised as peace. Every pause in your breath is a countdown. Every still glance a riddle they can't solve. The fire doesn't show, but it lives, smoldering, patient, waiting. Calm is not surrender. Calm is the leash wrapped around something far more terrifying. The world pretends to respect peace, but peace is rarely respected. What draws the real respect is restraint, because restraint holds danger, because restraint promises a storm when the limits are tested. Calmness is mistaken for weakness, yet in truth it is the warning before the strike. Look close enough and the cracks reveal themselves. A faint smile, a measured silence. The kind that makes others second-guess their every word. They don't know if they are safe, or standing in the eye of something that will devour them. The moment it chooses to move, that uncertainty is power. Power doesn't roar. Power doesn't beg. Power doesn't explain. It waits with a smirk that dares the world to push one step too far. And when the mask slits, when the calm dissolves, that's when the storm writes its name into the bones of anyone foolish enough to provoke it. The storm doesn't ask. The storm doesn't seek permission. The storm arrives sudden, unapologetic, merciless. And when the silence breaks into that sound, that twisted, unnerving laugh, the message becomes clear. The calm was never kindness. The calm was warning. The calm was mercy dressed as patience. Power isn't measured in noise, it's measured in how long the room stays quiet when you enter. Notice the shift, the nervous laugh, the glance that avoids your eyes, the pause mid-sentence. That's not respect, that's anticipation. A silent calculation of what you might do if the wrong word is spoken. That's power no title can give. A calm presence unsettles more than threats ever will. Rage is predictable. Calm is not. Rage shows its teeth. Calm hides the fangs behind a smile. And nothing terrifies more than not knowing when the bite will come. That uncertainty isn't weakness. It's leverage. It's control. It's the leash on the monster within. Wrath doesn't need an audience. Wrath doesn't need a stage. It waits in the dark corners of patience. It collects interest on every insult, every dismissal, every betrayal. And when the moment comes, it strikes with precision. Swift, cold, undeniable. That's the art of restraint, not silence. For silence's sake, but silence sharpened into a blade. Calmness isn't surrender, it's a mirror. Every time you refuse to explode, the reflection of their own fear stares back at them. They wonder what's hidden. They wonder what's plain. They wonder if the quiet is safety or a trap. That wondering breaks them before a single move is made. The real storm doesn't scream. It whispers. It creeps in unnoticed. And then when the world finally lets its guard down, it consumes everything in sight. That's the paradox of your calm. It's not absence of wrath. It's the guarantee of it. A ticking clock, a loaded silence, a storm wrapped in stillness. And when the silence finally breaks, it's not just sound that escapes. It's truth. Truth that no mask can hide. Truth that burns away every illusion. Truth that leaves the air thick with tension, reminding everyone that calm was never the end game. It was the beginning of something far greater. Every scar has a voice. Every wound carries a memory. And when calmness drapes itself across your face, those scars don't disappear. They whisper. They remind you of nights when silence was forced, when your strength was questioned, when the world mistook your patience for defeat. Those whispers don't fade. They sharpen. They demand to be heard in ways louder than screams. Pain was never designed to break you. Pain was designed to mold you. It carved the edges of who you are. It painted the lines of the mask you wear. And when others see only composure, what they miss is the battlefield stitched beneath your skin. Every moment of suffering added weight to the silence they now feel. That silence is not emptiness. It is history. Calmness holds more rage than rage itself. Rage flares. Calm collects. Rage burns fast. Calm waits for the perfect strike. Rage is reckless. Calm is precise. And precision is what terrifies. Because precision doesn't miss. Precision doesn't forget. Precision makes sure the impact is remembered long after the moment has passed. Think about it. No one truly fears the noise of thunder. What chills the skin is the pause before the strike. The moment the world holds its breath, knowing lightning is seconds away from tearing the sky apart. That pause, that silence, that's what you embody. That's what unsettles those around you. The greatest weapon isn't strength. The greatest weapon isn't speed. The greatest weapon is control. To feel wrath boil in your chest and still hold the leash. To let the fire burn in silence while your eyes tell the story your lips refuse to speak. That control makes you untouchable. That control makes others obedient without a word. And when the leash is finally released, when the silence cracks, when the monster steps out of the shadows, it doesn't need to announce itself. The room already knows. The walls already shake. The air already carries the warning. Calm was never weak. Calm was the sharpened knife hidden in plain sight. Restraint is a language few understand. It speaks in pauses, in unfinished sentences, in quiet glances that hold more weight than declarations. Restraint is power disguised as patience. It's the slow tightening of a rope around fate, until the moment comes when the world can't breathe without your permission. That moment, that is mastery. Anger fades. Wrath burns out. Restraint endures. It is not born in a second of violence. It is forged over years of silence, of biting back when every instinct screams to release. Restraint carries the memory of every slight, every dismissal, every moment they tested the boundaries. And it keeps score, quietly, relentlessly. There is art in silence, a weapon in the stillness. Every moment spent holding back builds an arsenal no sword can match. Every breath drawn without reaction sharpens the edge of your eventual answer. Silence isn't absence of action. It is action in preparation, and preparation is the key to dominance. Control isn't given. Control is claimed. It comes from knowing when to speak, when to move, when to let the moment pass, and when to strike without mercy. Control turns hesitation into fear. Control turns calm into chaos. Control is not about being the loudest. It is about being the last one standing. The world doesn't respect the loud ones. The world fears the quiet ones, who hold storms in their hands. There's a difference between chaos and control. Chaos destroys indiscriminate. Control reshapes reality itself. Calm is the discipline that births control, and control is the crown no one willingly surrenders. When restraint breaks, it's not in a roar. It's in a whisper that cuts deeper than a blade. The quiet will not return. The calm will be gone. And everything left will remember the weight of patience and the price of testing it. Hunger lives in the silence. It grows unseen, fed by every word left unspoken, every slight that slipped past unnoticed, every dismissal wrapped in smiles. Hunger is patient. Hunger does not demand attention. Hunger waits for the moment when control cracks, and then it devours without hesitation. That is the real force behind the calm. Strength without hunger is empty. Calm without desire is shallow. Hunger gives purpose to patience. Hunger sharpens restraint. Hunger turns silence into strategy. It is not the hunger for power that matters. It is the hunger for transformation, the craving to become something untouchable, something feared. There is no comfort in hunger. It feels like a shadow always at your back. It whispers doubts you cannot silence. It pushes you forward when every bone aches for stillness. Hunger is the companion of those who understand that the world never gives. They take, and taking demands vision and resolve. Hunger is never satisfied. It is a flame that consumes, but never burns out. It is the echo of every loss you have endured, the reminder of every moment you were underestimated. That echo becomes your map, leading you to a version of yourself forged in silence, sharpened by patience, and driven by a fire no one can extinguish. Control alone is a blade without a hand to wield it. Hunger is the hand. Hunger turns potential into inevitability. It teaches restraint how to wait. It teaches calm how to sharpen. It teaches power how to rise. Without hunger, calm is a cage. With hunger, calm is a weapon. When hunger meets control, the world doesn't notice at first. It waits, it watches, and when the storm finally falls, it is not chaos. It is an inevitable reckoning. That every mind carries its own battlefield. Every soul hides its war. Calm without awareness is peace. Calm with awareness is preparation. Preparation is the art of war. No one sees. The war inside shapes the war outside. The quietest ones hold the loudest storms. Silence is not absence. Silence is strategy. A measured gaze can dismantle armies without a single word. Patience is not weakness. It is a plan. Every second held is another second to understand, to observe, to build advantage. This is the weapon no blade can match. The mind is the greatest arena of conflict. Every glance is a move. Every pause is an opening. Every word withheld is a calculated strike. To master the mind is to master the battlefield. Restraint becomes the war cry. Calm becomes the armor. Silence becomes the weapon. Control in war is not about strength. It is about misdirection. It is letting the other side believe they lead the dance while you dictate every step. That is the power of quiet dominance. The enemy fights shadows while the real strike comes unseen. The truth of psychological warfare is simple. Break them without touching them. Plant doubt. Twist perception. Bend reality. Let them live in fear of something they cannot name. That is the art of mastery. That is the whisper before the storm. And when the storm arrives, it is not accidental. It is inevitable. Every moment of silence was the preparation. Every withheld word was the strike's sharpening. Every calm breath was a countdown. And when control becomes war, nothing stands in the way of the victor. Presence is the most dangerous weapon of all. It does not shout. It does not beg for attention. It does not need permission. Presence moves through a room and changes its gravity. People feel it before they see it. It lingers in silence, in glances, in pauses. To become presence is to become unavoidable. It is to turn restraint into reputation. Every moment of silence builds it. Every calculated breath strengthens it. Every shadow left unbroken adds weight. Presence is the echo of control, hunger, and patience, fused into a force no one dares to challenge. Fear of presence is deeper than fear of action. Action can be prepared for. Presence is uncertainty made flesh. It unsettles without movement. It commands without speech. It shapes reality with intention, bending thought before resistance can rise. Transformation begins when silence becomes identity. Hunger becomes purpose. Restraint becomes instinct. The calm is no longer a mask. It is the foundation. Presence is not born. It is crafted in the crucible of stillness and sharpened in the forge of self-control. The most feared are not those who fight loudly. The most feared are those who stand quietly and make others question why. Presence becomes the storm without announcing it. It is the shadow they whisper about, the weight they cannot measure, the truth they dare not speak. When presence is mastered, it becomes immortality. Not the immortality of life, but of legacy. The presence leaves a mark deeper than fear. It leaves inevitability. And inevitability is the final word in the war for dominance. Awakening is not an event. It is a reckoning. It is the moment when silence breaks and the storm becomes inevitable. It is the crossing point where restraint bows to purpose, hunger to power, and calm to dominance. Awakening is the unmasking of what has always been. The greatest awakening is not loud. It does not announce itself. It arrives quietly, like a shadow growing longer at dusk. It creeps into the mind, reshaping thought without permission. It bends perception until reality itself feels altered. That is the power of a mind awakened. Awakening begins with truth, the truth that control is earned, not given. That silence is not weakness, but weaponry. That hunger is not a void, but a force. That calm is not surrender, but mastery. Truth strips away illusions and leaves only the core of power. This awakening is personal. It is not a doctrine. It is not taught. It is seized. It comes when the weight of restraint and hunger transforms into presence, when patience becomes purpose, when the quiet becomes the work. That is when the transformation becomes unstoppable. The world never notices an awakening until it cannot be ignored, until the presence becomes so undeniable that resistance crumbles, until every glance, every step, every breath carries the shadow of inevitability. Awakening is the moment control becomes legacy, and legacy is not given. Legacy is taken. It is carved in silence, forged in restraint, sharpened by hunger and carried forth in presence. The awakening is not the end. It is the moment the war begins, and the world realizes it is already lost. Legacy is not found in victory. Legacy is the shadow left behind. It is the trace of a presence that could not be ignored. It is the echo of silence turned into power. Legacy is the proof that control was not given, but taken and kept. Every step toward legacy is carved in quiet. Every breath is weighed. Every choice is deliberate. It is not born from chaos, but from control perfected. Legacy is not loud. It is the stillness that follows the storm, the mark left in absence of noise. The most feared legacy is the one unseen, a presence that never needed validation, a force that did not announce itself, but became undeniable. Legacy is not the applause of the crowd. It is the unease in the room long after the sound has faded. Legacy is the final form of dominance. It is not claimed in a moment. It is forged in a lifetime of restraint, hunger, control. It is the living proof that calm was never weakness. Calm was the weapon. Calm was the war. Calm was the making of an unstoppable force. Legacy demands respect without asking for it. It bends perception without force. It becomes the unseen ruler of every thought left behind. It is not about being remembered. It is about being inevitable. And inevitability is the final truth of power. When legacy stands, silence will bow. Hunger will become the crown. Control will become the throne, and the calm will be remembered as the moment the storm was born, the moment the monster stepped out of the shadows and never looked back. The end is not a finish. The end is a beginning disguised as silence. It is the moment when all restraint, hunger, and presence converge. It is the moment where control becomes certainty, and certainty becomes inevitability. The end is the awakening of what was always there. Victory is not in noise. Victory is in presence. It is in the quiet after the fight, when nothing needs to be proved. It is in the weight that hangs in the air, the unspoken truth that no one can undo what has been done. Victory is the legacy of calm made weapon. Transformation is not loud. It is quiet, relentless, inevitable. It is forged in patience, sharpened in silence, and driven by hunger. Transformation does not ask permission. It arrives without warning. It does not need to declare itself. It is felt, deep, unshakable, unforgettable. The strongest force is unseen. The most feared force is unknown. The greatest power is silence turned into action. Calm turned into storm. Hunger turned into purpose. Control turned into inevitability. That force is the monster hidden in the stillness. That force is who you become. And when the world finally realizes, it is too late. The calm is already shattered. The silence has already spoken. The storm has already come. And the shadow left behind will never fade. That is not an ending. That is immortality. So ask yourself this: what are you hiding? What hunger have you buried beneath your calm? And when the silence breaks, what will